imagine a classic WoW server, right? But it has like, you know, added features. So like it would be something that either the community would vote for, like they would add like more difficulties to a raid, or like raid mechanics, or new raids, or dungeons, or new talent configurations, or spells, or it could be basically Classic Plus means anything like it's like customized, right? So another game that does this is RuneScape. So RuneScape basically have a thing where they basically let the community vote for changes, right? So whatever changes they want, let's say with WoW that is removing world buffs or leeway or spell batching or whatever the hell, right? And we would have like a custom game. So that's basically what Classic WoW Plus is, right? So Metagoblin, I saw he made like a video about that, and I figured we could watch that together and see what this is all about, right?
Hey guys, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the possibilities of Classic Plus happening in the probably quite distant future. So to be honest guys, I actually do think Classic Plus is very likely to happen because of a recent survey that was released by Blizzard. They essentially released a survey to a number of people, kind of putting the vibe out about Fresh Classic, but also Fresh Classic with changed features. And, you know, we had stuff like this before TBC was released. I think we even had surveys like this before Classic WoW was released.
Yeah, they basically made a survey where they asked people, like, would you guys like world buffs? Would you guys like custom XP rates? Would you guys like certain, like a lot of custom things, right? Like a lot of really custom things that like they would add into Classic WoW. And it's something like Blizzard have been hinting at a lot, and you know they have changed a lot of things in the course of Classic. But I mean, I feel like at this point it is pretty obvious that we are gonna be getting like a new Classic Fresh or something at some point. So we're gonna have to see. But let's see what he's talking about here.
And then obviously Classic WoW and TBC Classic have now happened. So I think for those Classic, you know, WoW fans out there who would have preferred, you know, the raid content to be more difficult and, you know, several other changes, then obviously this is right up your street. And yeah, personally, I think it is very likely to happen. So let's have a look at some of the questions, because some of the basically teased changes are actually quite interesting. So first of all, we've got summoning stones at dungeon entrances, which, let's be honest, is a welcome change. Then you've got more difficult...
Yeah, for me, this is like, sort of like, if they do it, it's not going to ruin the game for me. I kind of like that you have to run to the dungeon sometimes. It's like a bigger part of the MMO aspect. Warlocks are a little bit more useful in that way, but yeah.
Raid bosses and dungeon encounters. Okay, the specific thing with dungeon encounters there is interesting. Maybe they would think about including heroic dungeons, like heroic versions of Blackrock Depths, Lower Blackrock Spire, and Skullmonths, etc. That would be pretty cool.
I think that would highly depend if they're just tuning up the health and tuning up the damage of the boss, or if they're like actually adding new mechanics. The chances of them adding new mechanics is probably very slim, let's be honest. But no matter what you change, it's going to piss off some people and it's going to make some people annoyed, right? So I think the hashtag no changes thing is good, but to a certain degree, right? Because I think there is some things that are better being changed, right? Like there is some things, like there's lots of things that I think that could change, right? So I wish they take the RuneScape route. That's sort of like what we're discussing, Ursa Master, the RuneScape route with the thing where you make the community vote for what's happening, right? And that could change the game. I think this could be kind of cool if Blizzard does it well. I really do think so.
And obviously, furthermore, heroic versions of raids, or just make the default raid difficulty more difficult. Maybe even add particular mechanics to make the raid fights just a little bit more fresh and interesting. Problem I can see with the increased difficulty is that compositions will become even more min-max unless they do something about class changes. They haven't really like leaked anything or hinted at anything about class changes, but yeah, in my opinion, if the raids are more difficult, it will encourage people to recruit less, you know, support specs like Enhancement Shaman, Boomkin, etc. But what they have hinted at is increasing the debuff limit on raid bosses. So with the increased debuff limit, it may increase the viability of particular specs that you haven't seen before, like for instance
Shadow Priests, Warlocks, like there's lots of stuff and like lots of classes, even Rogues, like you could possibly be using like, I don't know if it would be viable, like Rupture and shit, like there's lots of changes that could maybe like even like very small things can change like a big thing in the game, right?
There's an Affliction Warlock, because Affliction Warlock DPS isn't actually that bad. You just can't, you know, put up all of your dots. They also hint at, you know, gimmicky things like the barbershop and not having world buffs active in raids,
Barbershop
which
is
would
like,
obviously be another very welcome change for the majority of people who played Classic WoW. They also hint at faster XP rates. Now, that's probably quite a controversial one, because I think a lot of people do like the slow burn of Classic WoW leveling. Me personally, I think the appeal of Classic WoW leveling is more about the sense of exploration, adventure, and how the game encourages you to group up with people in the open world, make friends, you know, to accomplish particular objectives like group elite quests and everything like that. For me, the essence of it isn't how long it takes. I think that's actually probably a little bit of a disadvantage to it, but that's talking from someone who's literally leveled, you know, 1 to 60 with the default vanilla XP rates about 5 or 6 times within the past 5 years. So personally,
that's how I see it too, right? And I feel like maybe a lot of people would disagree with me, but I feel like the fact that the leveling in Classic WoW takes so long is like a part of what makes it cool when you finally get max level, right? Like your character progression is so important in an MMO, I think, and it's such like a vital part of the core gameplay, right? So having that last a little bit long is fine. That is if you enjoy the leveling, and I personally do enjoy the leveling.
I wouldn't mind a slightly faster XP rate. I don't think I'd
50%
actually
slower
play
leveling.
Classic Plus if it came out without faster XP rates, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. The survey hinted at other interesting changes, like a faster release schedule. So, apparently,
I think a year would be fun. 1 year. So that's if you don't know, there's 6 phases in Classic WoW, and 1 year would be like a new phase every 2 months. For me, that would be fun. That might be too fast for some people, but I think that would be enjoyable, because I think a lot of people don't. I know a lot of people don't like AQ patch. A lot of people quit on the AQ patch, and the AQ patch is like 5 months, man. It's so long. So yeah, I think a year would be fun.
You know, they're calling it a cadence. That must be what they call it.
1.5, yeah.
But whatever. So a release schedule of, you know, the default one, 21 to 22 months.
AQ is big, not fun.
Or having a 12-month release schedule, which will probably be a little bit more welcome for most people, because these days people can clear the content extremely fast. Or an accelerated 6-month schedule, which, in my opinion, is a little too fast.
That's too fast.
Another change that really lights my candle is the original Alteric Valley. I think if Classic Plus came out with the original Alteric Valley, I'd be rolling a Warlock just to play Alteric Valley non-stop, probably, because I just loved old school Alteric Valley so much, and only got to experience it very briefly on the old Nostalgia servers. And it's probably one of the
old
most
Alteric Valley is
interesting. Classic WoW. I know I'm probably quite weird for thinking that, but yeah, I just used to love old school Alteric Valley, where the battlegrounds would go on for hours and hours and hours. They also hint at...
I feel like, for me at least, that's like one of those things where you think it's fun, but it's not really that fun, right? Like the idea and the thought of it is really cool, but it's not that fun being in like a 10-hour, 2-day AV, right? That's just like stuck, right? But I guess it's good if you just want to do some PvP and like want to, you know, PvP inside the AV, right, and stuff like that. So yeah.
Increased drop rate on particular items and extra gold rates. Don't really understand why they've hinted at that. I don't think it's really needed that much. Maybe because, you know, if you've got a server with a faster release schedule, you will need certain items to have a higher chance of drop, and you will need to earn gold a little bit faster. But in my opinion, I don't think stuff like that is really needed. It wasn't needed on
changing gold is not
private
good.
servers or anything like that. And then they also hint at a black market auction house for vanity items.
No, dude.
Which I'm not
Get that out of here.
entirely very keen on, to be honest.
No, that's not
I don't
for
know
me.
how that would affect the economy of a Classic Plus server. I just don't think Classic WoW fans really care about stuff like the black market auction house. And I don't know what vanity items would be included with that. Like, would it just be BlizzCon items from back in 2004 or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I think the addition of extra collectible cosmetic items would be quite welcome, like perhaps more mounts that can drop from particular raids, because let's be honest, everyone is upset.
Unarmored mounts. Let the people who level fast have a chance to get the armored mounts. I was so sad when Classic WoW released, and I figured out that I couldn't sweat myself to 60 and get an unarmored mount before they changed, they removed them, right? Because I really wanted like an ivory raptor, or like, oh man, I really would like one of those mounts, but you know, it is what it is, right?
Stuff like that. But yeah, I'm not really highly keen on the idea of the black market auction house. What I find interesting is how we've heard about Classic Plus before we've heard any news about Wrath of the Lich King release. Obviously, it's very early to get any news about Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah.
But what is kind of like worrying me slightly is how is the Classic Plus release, if it is ever going to happen, how is that going to interfere with the Wrath of the Lich King release? Or is the plan for a fresh Classic Plus server much further into the future when people are done with Wrath of the Lich King?
Just infinitely recycling it then.
Kind of like in the middle of the Burning Crusade release schedule. I mean, who knows? Maybe Blizzard's very long-term plan is to have, you know, every single expansion have available servers for people to play on, but they have accelerated features which allow people to clear the content faster.
Like a seasonal thing.
Therefore, people can be kind of flexible about what expansions they play when it comes to playing classic era servers.
Do you think we're gonna reach a point in WoW where like there's legit like a version of every single WoW available? Like you could play classic, TBC, Wrath, Keta, BF. You can legit play every single version.
Yes, I wouldn't mind something like that. Like the flexibility to just kind of play on multiple different expansions, multiple different servers, and with features that actually allow me to actually do that without feeling like I can't have the time to play on 2 different servers. You may think that, you know, why would people want to be jumping around different expansions and things like that, and just people won't want to do that. But at the end of the day, people have been doing it on private servers for years and years.
Yes, that's
and it
true.
would be very nice if Blizzard basically provided a home for people who normally do play private servers because they want to satisfy the itch of playing particular expansions and they have no love of retail, which is basically me and many other people, and then we won't have to play crappy private servers and we will have your play on official Blizzard servers. And overall, I think that would be a good idea for Blizzard to implement, but I think I've definitely talked enough now. My name is Metagoblin. Until my next video.
Yep.
Ciao.
I think it's an interesting topic, the video from Metagoblin, guys. It's an interesting topic, I think, the whole like Classic Plus thing, because that's what made, what is it called? That's what made old school and RuneScape so positive and so like popular, right? Because the community has such a big impact on how the game is perceived and how the game turns out, and they like that, right? So whether or not we're gonna get Classic Plus, I'm not sure. I do think the possibility for fresh is very high. Whenever we're gonna be getting it, if it's like in a few months, in a year, whenever we're getting it, I do think it is gonna come up at some point, though. I do think so. But yeah, pretty good video, man. Pretty good video. If you guys want to watch it, it is here.